Look at this complete and abject failure. You have Batman PS4 game gaining 50% more players in the wake of the Suicide Squad launch. So, a video game which was made almost a decade ago is objectively more popular, better in any way, shape, or form, costed less to make, required less people to make, with better story, better everything. And the reality is, like, everyone knows what it is, you know, but you have people like Rags that, like, refuse to admit the problem. And the problem is wokeness. It is wokeness. I know you're not supposed to say it. I know you're not supposed to articulate it. I know it's like, but it is true. It is nepotism at an industrial scale. It's what caused the Soviet Union to go into economic collapse. Because you had factories, you had farms, you had important places where they would promote the boss's son, they would promote the boss's daughter, they would promote someone incompetent and arrogant in a position of power that created a toxic atmosphere, a toxic work environment over everyone else. But diversity does that at an even worse industrial scale. Because they hire people based on ideology. And everyone knows the reason, but people are shy to articulate it. I was playing Dungeons and Dragons a couple of weeks ago with Rags, and he just doesn't want to use the word woke anymore. And I'm like, well, do you have a better word for it? No. But he doesn't want to do it, which is exactly what the academics and the activists are constantly trying to accomplish, to not give a name to the problem. Because if you give a name to the problem, you can frame it, you can tackle it. So this is why, you know, when people are saying, oh, cultural Marxism, oh my God, no, that's an anti-Semitic thing. No, you can't say that. Woke, no, like what is woke? Can you define woke? What is that? Social justice, it's like, oh, who uses that term anymore? And what's wrong with justice, right? So like they don't want people to give a name to the problem so that they can then analyze and talk about the problem. It's like diversity. Oh, what's wrong with hiring people of different races? Are you a racist? Right? Like they make it impossible to name the issue, which at the end of the day, as I said in other videos, is nepotism. Like it's what helped destroy the economy of the Soviet Union. So the Soviet Union, for those of you who don't know, factories, farms, and everything was run by the government. In other words, it was run by bureaucrats. And they didn't really care if the factory is profitable or not, if the farm is profitable or not, because they would get paid the same way regardless. So if they didn't care, that allowed for corruption, that allowed for nepotism. In other words, they would place the boss's son or the boss's daughter or their friends and families in positions of high places. So they would put someone that was talentless, without skill, and usually very arrogant, in a position of leadership. So you'd have like the top engineer at a factory not know anything about engineering, be incredibly arrogant, and the people who did know engineering had to listen to that guy and were worse paid. So as you can imagine, that creates animosity, that creates all sorts of problems. And that in itself didn't create the collapse of the Soviet Union, but it definitely helped. Now what you have in the United States is the same shit, but at an industrial scale. Like this whole thing with diversity is literally that. Hire people, not because of their merit, but because of their ideology. So you now need to create all sorts of positions that are completely useless in a company, and all they do is to allow these individuals to be hired and be placed in positions of leadership and supervise other people. So like for instance, you know, Blizzard was saying how they hired this diversity lady, right? And they made a big deal out of it. It was everywhere. And she was like this African-American lady, which was supposed to proofread Blizzard stories, right? So like she was now better than the writer. Like she is on top of the writer. The writer needs permission from her to be able to get approval. And I looked at like, okay, so what exactly did she wrote? I mean, she must be a very skilled writer, right? If you're going to place her at the top of the pyramid, if she is at the top of everything at Blizzard, like surely she must be a very talented writer. Chat, she wrote nothing. Not even a brochure. Not even a website. She had absolutely no writing experience whatsoever. So I want you to imagine that you are a writer at a company like Blizzard, which wrote Frozen Throne, Diablo, and now you have like this person with no experience in writing whatsoever being on top of you. Like you need to ask permission from them in order to be able to publish your stuff. And this is just with the writing. But imagine you're an artist. I mean, some of the best looking female characters in Western gaming were done by Blizzard. The Night Elves, Alexstrasza, Ysera, the Dragon Aspects, all of them wonderful characters. Now imagine you're that artist which drew those characters, and now there is a lady looming over you, and she is the one you need to ask permission whether or not you can publish your drawings. So the question is like, what are her credentials? What has she drawn? What is her experience? Jack shit. Absolutely nothing. But she's probably extremely arrogant, right? Like she will say, no, you can't draw these boobies. You need to pump some androgyny into the drawings. Make sure that the cleavage is covered up. Imagine working like that if you're an actual talented person. If you want to unleash your creativity while knowing that the person on top of you has zero experience in how to do your job, but is incredibly opinionated. And not only that, but, you know, they can accuse you of all sorts of isms if you don't write the way they want or if you don't draw the way they want, and you can be fired. And of course, you know, that's not the only supervisors. Now you probably have another lady that's patrolling the offices, making sure that no one does any sort of jokes that may be problematic, which is subjective as fuck, of course, which means that most people are going to just shut the fuck up. The same way that they did in the Soviet Union. The Red Terror is coming, so you need to keep quiet, keep your head down, so that you don't draw attention, because you may offend someone, which is probably less talented than you, and they would want you to be fired from that company so they can get up the ladder and take your position. And this is the situation in the gaming industry, chat. In the gaming industry, which is one of the first industries that went woke. They're now doing this to the aeronautics industry. They're doing this to the military. They're doing this to other businesses that are essential. Because at the end of the day, you know, you can play games from Japan. Because this is why I know it's woke. Like, there are other countries that are still making games. Like, you have games coming up from South Korea. You have games coming up from Japan. They're good. They don't have a problem. You can literally play games that were made 10 years ago. And those games are fine, right? It's not like we grew up and we just don't enjoy video games anymore. It's not like, oh, maybe, you know, we have rose-tinted glasses and we just don't know how games used to be, because we can still play them. But like back then, they weren't suffering from this mental retardation of an ideology. Like the idea, it's like, what does the market want? Well, the market wants sex and violence. This is like the shonen genre. This is what teenagers want. Okay, remove the sex. But why though? Just remove it. You know, in the example of the Batman game, I remember Catwoman was really hot. I remember Harley Quinn was really hot. And it wasn't like a porn game. You know, like, but when you played it, it made you feel differently about the character. Like, having a villainess that actually looks good is interesting. Because it's like, well, you have to be mean to her. You have to stop her committing crime. Yeah, but like, look how good she is. You know, can't you just follow this? You know, like it creates the femme fatale trope, which has existed for decades and still exists in Japan and in other places, which is an interesting character that they are removing for no reason whatsoever. And the thing is, it's insulting, right? Because they're basically saying that anything that has to do with the male gaze causes people to rape. And it's like, I don't want to be lectured by a company like Blizzard, for instance, which is under many accusations. Just because like some liberal pervert in Hollywood, Harvey Weinstein, can't be a law-abiding citizen, why can't I enjoy my fucking video games? So anyway, it's really shameful and concerning what's happening with the gaming industry, especially because the same thing is now happening to other industries. And I think we're going to witness things becoming worse. Especially when you look at the America's Fortune 500, all of these companies are heavily invested into this ideology. And many people have their pension and retirement money in these companies. So I don't know what's going to follow, but probably not good. Let me know what you guys think, though. And as usual, I will see you in the comment section. Take care.